Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack 24, the last pack in my science project of cracking a 1990 top Cello box. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how this science project will test the theory to see if I can build a complete set from the Cello box. I've added the link to my preview video in the description below. With all the packs that I crack, I'm going to share my thoughts and memories about some of the players or cards. After I've cracked the pack, I'm going to choose the best card of the pack. Doesn't mean it has to be a rookie, superstar, or Hall of Famer. It can be a goofy photo, it can be something interesting about the player, or maybe some memory I had of the player from back in the day. Okay, let's get to cracking this final pack, pack number 24. So, I guess in this final pack, still looking to get either a Bernie Williams or a Marquise Grissom out of the pack. The way Cello boxes run, more than likely, we're probably going to end up with quite a few duplicates. So maybe some repeat stuff about the players. Hopefully I can come up with something different. All right, Jim Gott spent a number of years as a middle reliever. I don't know that he really ever got a chance as a closer or even a starter, but pitched for a relatively long period of time in his career. Dodgers, Pirates, there are a couple other teams in there. Kenny Rogers, the gambler. Rest in peace, the real gambler. Kenny Rogers just passed recently. Rogers came up as a reliever and then eventually got his foothold as a starter. Kind of a finesse lefty, never really had like gas. He threw a no-hitter, I believe, in 1995. My biggest memory of him is playing with the Tigers against the Cardinals in the 2006 World Series. He had some foreign substance on his hand, his pitching hand, in that game number 2. He had a pretty good career. I think he may have gotten to 200 wins or pretty close to that. Gary Wayne came up as a reliever, bounced around a little bit with the Twins in the minors. Lenny Harris, backup utility infielder, spent a number of years as a backup with the Dodgers and the Reds. I can't remember if he was with the Reds in their 1990 World Series run. No, he was with the Reds and then went to the Dodgers. So he missed the Dodgers World Series run the year before and then missed the Reds World Series run the year after. Todd Stottlemyre, son of Mel Stottlemyre Sr., had a pretty good pitching career with the Blue Jays, A's, Cardinals. Won around, I think, 125, 150 games. He ended his career with the Diamondbacks. I think he may have been part of their 2001 World Series run. Brian Dubois came up as kind of a prospect with the Tigers. Obviously didn't work out. Kelly Gruber, he was their starting third baseman for quite a while, eventually got replaced by Ed Sprague. I think he missed out on both of their 92 and 93 World Series runs. He was their starting third baseman from about 86 to 91. He had replaced the platoon combo of Garth Orge and Rance Mulliniks. Greg Matthews came up as a lefty starter with the Cardinals. Won 11 games exactly his first 2 years in the league. He was part of their 1987 World Series run. Eventually injured his pitching arm, and I think 1989 was the last time. No, 88 was the last time he pitched. Spent the entire year on the disabled list in 89. Julio Machado was a pitching prospect with the Mets, came up as a reliever, didn't pan out. Spent a couple of years bouncing back and forth between AAA, and then eventually that was it. Bucky Dent as the manager of the Yankees. I think the Yankees, he had a stint in between all the Billy Martin stints, and right before when Buck Showalter took over for the team and started to turn them around into a World Series winner. Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens, fantastic pitcher. I still remember 1986 when he struck out 20 Mariners. Now, granted, the Mariners were a crappy team and they struck out a ton, but to be able to strike out 20 batters in one game is quite a monumental feat. I always think, Roger Clemens didn't need steroids. He didn't need to get messed up in that. He was already an awesome pitcher. He was really into conditioning and and physique, but he'll eventually get into the Hall of Fame. But obviously a tainted career. Wally Backman, Mets infielder, spent a little bit of time with the Twins. He was supposed to be a big league manager, but he had some issues with the law, and it didn't quite pan out for him. I think he was going to be the Diamondbacks manager. Mackie Sasser, I think I've talked about him as well. He developed a case of the throwing yips. He couldn't get the ball from catcher back to the pitcher, and it got to the point where he just had to lob the ball, or he would walk the ball out to the pitcher. The pitcher would meet him halfway there. Because of that, he couldn't throw out any runners at all. Not because he couldn't throw down to second base, but because there were times where he would lob the ball back to the pitcher and the runner would just take off and easily still stay on base. Clint Zavaris, I don't remember much about him. Interesting last name, though. Luis Salazar, backup infielder, utility infielder with the Padres, the Cubs. I think he spent a year with the Tigers as well. Now, send off for your awesome hat that has like this felt baseball stuck to it. Even back then, there's no way I was ordering this piece of garbage, and today there's no way I'd order it unless it had some sort of value attached to it, because no one ordered it and they burned them all. Tom Foley, utility infielder, Expos. I think he spent a little bit of time with the Reds as well. Mike McFarland, he came up. He replaced John Wathan as the starting catcher for the Royals. Was their starter for a couple of years. Eventually moved on to the A's and spent the rest of his career kind of as a backup. Jose Alvarez. Now, I remember Jose Alvarez simply because he pitched forever in the minor leagues. I mean, forever before he finally got a taste of the big leagues with the Braves. In fact, if you look at the back of his card, it doesn't really show his minor league record, but you get a sense of it. He had a cup of coffee with the Braves in 81 and 82, and then nothing until 88. And in fact, when you look at his stats for 88 and 89, and remember the Braves were crappy during this time. In fact, they finished last in 1990 and then went from worst to first in 91. He was not that bad of a middle innings reliever. If you look at it, he was born in 56. He obviously made his big league career debut at the age of 25, but it wasn't until he was 32 and 33 that he really got an extended taste in the big leagues. Darryl Strawberry. Both he and Eric Davis were pretty good players, childhood friends. Davis, where he just had a body that got injured so easily. Darryl Strawberry couldn't lay off the cocaine, couldn't lay off the drugs. He came out with a ton of promise. I remember him in his rookie year. I mean, he was the talk of the Big Apple. And then Dwight Gooden comes up the next year, starts the run of great Met teams in the late 80s. Strawberry got mixed up in that. Eventually, went to the Dodgers as a free agent. Played like absolute crap. Went to the Giants. Was out of baseball for a couple of years. Then came back very late in his career with the Yankees and kind of helped them during their World Series run. What could have been with Darryl Strawberry? A lot of people thought he was going to be a Hall of Famer, but as Rick James says, cocaine's a hell of a drug. Andreas Thomas came up as a starting infielder and then spent a number of years just as a backup. Brian Holton. Now, I don't remember too much about Brian Holton, but I do remember in 1990, I was cracking some packs, as a kid, and the very first pack, I still remember this, the very first pack I cracked, so I hadn't even been able to see what these cards look like. I mean, this is back in the dark ages, when you didn't know what the cards looked like until you went to the grocery store, you opened the pack and saw it. Brian Holton was the very first card in that pack, and, back then I didn't really care too much about, card damage like ding corners or things like that, but I remember opening the pack. Brian Holton was the very first card on it, and when I pull it out of the pack, I mean, the grocery store must have abused these packs like no tomorrow, but there was like a crack running down the middle of the card, and then there was like a huge ding corner, and then some like weird surface thing. I wished I still had, that card, bring back memories. I mean, I think as soon as I opened it, and a lot of times, I'd buy the pack at the grocery store, And while I'm waiting for my mom to get groceries, like I'd sit down, find a place in the grocery store and open up the pack. I'm pretty sure as soon as I looked at the card and said, this is garbage, I threw the card away. I was also mesmerized by the design. And in the review video, I'll take some time to talk about the design. Andy Hawkins had a no-hitter taken away from him. So he had the rare distinction of being a losing pitcher and a no-hitter. He pitched 8 innings, no-hit innings. Unfortunately, his team was the road team, and they lost 4-0. So wrap your head around that. No-hitter, gave up 4 runs, lost it, and then had Major League Baseball take away his no-hitter because you have to pitch 9 complete innings. If you look at the box score of that game, and I can't remember what year it was in, I want to say it was maybe 90 or 91. He was with the White Sox, if I remember right. No, he was with the Yankees. I think he was against the White Sox, so it may have been this year. But as you can see, he gave up a ton of hits, ton of runs, and he walked a lot of guys. And if I remember that game, he walked a bunch of guys. There's a whole bunch of fielding errors. So, I mean, it probably wasn't a legit no-hitter because someone more than likely got a hit and they just ruled as an error. Rand Smolnik's funny that he came up. I mentioned him earlier when we looked at the Kelly Gruber card. He was part of the lefty-righty platoon with the Blue Jays in the mid-'80s. Mike Henneman came up as a reliever. Had some saves, but wasn't really a closer. Spent a number of years as I guess you would call a setup guy before the term setup guy became famous. Ivan Calderon, I believe he started out with the Expos, moved over to the White Sox. He had some power. Sad story about him. He died. I can't remember if he died while still in his playing career or shortly thereafter, but kind of in a bizarre deal. I think he's from the Dominican Republic. No, Puerto Rico. But there were some odd details around his passing. Nelson Liriano, he was supposed to be the guy that came up and was the Blue Jays starting second baseman, taking over for Manny Lee, because Manny Lee couldn't hit, but Manny Lee could field. Well, Nelson Liriano fell right into the same footsteps, couldn't really hit, decent fielder. Frank Williams, here's another interesting story. So Frank Williams was a middle reliever for his career. Tigers, Giants, Reds. He ran afoul of the law. I want to say it was something financial related, maybe embezzlement or some crazy thing like that. I think he's currently in federal prison. John Moses, I remember him coming up with the Twins. He never really established himself as more than like a pinch hitter or backup outfielder. Brian Harvey came up as a stopper, had about a 10-year span of gathering saves with the Angels. He moved over to the Marlins. I can't remember if he was a member of the initial 1993 Marlins or if he came the year after, but was a closer and had a pretty good run, like I said, for about 10 years. Joe Oliver, part of the World Series run of the Reds in 1990. I don't remember if he was a starter. I think he was part of their lefty-righty platoon. And if I remember right, I think he was the right-handed side of that platoon. Yeah, the right-handed side. Okay, and then our final card is Darnell Coles, Mariners and Tigers, basically a backup utility infielder. So with this final pack, it looks like we got a ton of backup utility infielders, which, you know, when you've got a 792 card set, that's going to be something you're going to see quite frequently. Let's see. There's a lot of easy cards that I could pick out of here. I think I'm going to go back to my favorite card or best card out of the pack. Might as well. Going to spend some time on Mr. Brian Holton. So, yeah, the other thing that I remember most about the 1990 top set obviously was the design. But Brian Holton stands out because back in the day when I put my sets in a binder, I'd organize them by team and then by alphabetically by pitcher, then alphabetically by catcher, alphabetically by infielder and outfielder. Just kind of a weird way that I did stuff. I don't know why I did it that way. I like to organize it by team so I could flip through the binder and look at how the team was composed. And I think I organized them that way because when you'd get the magazines like the preview magazines for the year that would rate all the teams and talk about their strengths, you know, and you look at a major league roster, organizes by pitcher alphabetically, catcher, infielder, outfielder, etc. And I just love flipping through the pages because I could look at each team based upon their cards and see, you know, who was on the team and who wasn't on the team. You know, obviously, you know, during the 1990 year, for example, while they're playing, trades would happen and players would move around. And it would be funny because I remember early on when I was a kid, I would actually move the cards. So if Holton got traded during the year, let's say to another team, I'd move his card from the Oriole team and move it to wherever you know, whatever team he got traded on. It was just kind of a cool way for me to keep track of it. But this card brings back so many memories because it was, like I said, the first card I opened out of a pack, and it was so damaged. I remember, and the funny thing was the other cards in the pack, whether they were damaged or not, I don't quite remember. But I just remember my reaction. Like, first of all, the design shocked me. I mean, it was way different than anything else than I had really seen with Topps. I mean, I was way too young for 1975, which was a, you know, very colorful design like this. But to have a card that was so damaged, and I remember, you know, I looked at it and I thought, well, this is ridiculous. 1990 Topps is stupid. And I probably didn't buy another pack for like a week or so. And then I got the itch and obviously bought a ton as usual. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe and share. Until next, and in the comment section, take some time to tell me what your favorite card was or a memory you had in the 1990 Topps set. Okay, so until next time, when I'm back with my 1990 Topps Cello box review video, where I'll go through the findings of my science project. So I'll see you then.